So now we're at one of my favorite parts of a project, which is figuring out the layout. So let's jump in and do a little walk around and see what the challenges were and what we did about it. In this little house, the main bedroom was set closest to the road, but we weren't that comfortable having the main bedroom here for noise and security reasons. The space also felt too large compared to the rest of this house. Plus, it's actually a bit annoying that one needs to walk through the bedroom in order to reach the kitchen and garden. The living area was the central room of the house. This would double as our guest room. The previous owners had begun rebuilding part of the living area to enlarge the bathroom. But because of the 3 openings, it was a tricky space to furnish for what we needed it for. And as a guest room, it would mean that it would be a walk-through room, which is always a challenge, to be honest. From here, you have an opening leading to a small hallway, splitting into the bathroom and the old farm kitchen. The bathroom was currently accessible from both the bed and the living room, because there is a rule that says that you need to be able to access a bathroom from a bedroom without having to pass through another bedroom. The current plan meant that the bathroom was essentially a corridor, which made it quite awkward. A small kitchen tucked to the side of the house also had direct access to the garden, which was lovely, but the kitchen was so small it was impossible to see how we could also use it to sit in during the hottest days or during bad weather. And since we're a family who loves cooking, it was just not up for the job.
By shifting the main entrance to the other side of the house, we got away with having to walk through rooms to get to the garden. Instead of having the main bedroom at the front of the house, we decided to move it to where the kitchen used to be. For the bed to be placed comfortably, we closed off the opening and enlarged the window to allow for some more light. We decided to place the kitchen in the center of the house with direct access to the lovely garden. The front room now becomes a spacious living area that allows for a sofa bed, and we can even fit extra beds if necessary. We closed off one side of the bathroom, as one opening is now sufficient for access from both bedrooms without having to pass through the other. It also gave us the opportunity to improve the layout. The small space left over can now fit a washing machine and cleaning equipment accessible from the living room.
Preparing is key in making you a good decision maker. From years of experience of working with clients, I can tell you that the main reason of tension comes from the fact that they're not aligned in what they want and the vision for the project, which makes them lag in their decision making because there are hundreds of decisions that needs to be made. My background is in interior design, so this is something that I've worked with a lot, and Kalle has a great eye for detail. Another important ingredient that Kalle and I have between us is a high confidence for the other's experience and knowledge. You need to have some form of division between it, and we kind of lead with what you're most interested in, have most experience with, you lead in. Everything we run by each other, of course, but when you're in the thick of it, you really don't have time and you need to kind of let go. We use Pinterest a lot. Our boards are a bit crazy if you look at them. And I also use SketchUp. I've probably worked with SketchUp now for about 14 years. And it's a great tool to work through the designs or ideas that you can't simply find on Google Images or whatever. Collaborating on these boards is a great way of aligning the visions and really find out, that's how you thought about the kitchen. I had this idea, what do you think about that? And it becomes a very visual way to shape a project, which is brilliant. In this house, we decided to go really bold, nothing minimalist at all. And we wanted dark wood and natural stone and some fun colors, and we want to put a lot of character to create a cozy but also quite dramatic place. And so we had a little bit of fun here, because normally we go more of a neutral or you're constricted by clients, but here we just went a bit wild, which was fun. And this kitchen is a clear example. But anyways, let's get into the project and see the process. But it's a good thing to have in mind how our framework for how it should look was kind of clear from the beginning.
As is often the case in these renovation projects, it starts with a huge cleaning job, and this was no exception. Since the timeline for this project was pretty tight for us, we got right on doing an assessment of the windows and doors of this house. The front door was an old metal shop door that did not open well, and it was hideous, to be honest. And the front window with two loosely hanging frames on a couple of wooden studs, ready to fall apart. And the door to the right there takes you to the stairs that leads up on the roof, but that was in such a terrible shape that it had allowed the neighborhood cats to take place in there and use it as a toilet and general hangout. It had to be taken care of immediately. The interior door between the living room and the kitchen was not in a bad shape actually. It was a pretty old door and we decided to renovate that. The three other interior openings did not have any doors, so we had to get those all three made. The big back door and the window above it would now become the main entrance door, and this had been pretty beaten up by the weather and neglect of the years of past. So I drew a door here that would allow the maximum amount of light into the kitchen. The beautiful pretty window that was in what would now be the bedroom could sadly not be recovered because we needed something a little more weatherproof. And as we discussed earlier, we would close up this door here. Kitchen ends up being a central part of everybody's house, but especially true in our case because frankly, we cook all the time, and this is where we always hang out as a family and also with friends. So kitchen is always a huge passion project for both of us. The big challenge of this little house is storage, so we decided to make very high wall cabinets in this case. And we did a little L-shaped kitchen that would be suited for the corner. So for the cabinet doors, we chose a deep natural walnut. When we visited the local stone and marble supplier, we fell immediately in love with this wild green marble. It's really not ideal as a kitchen worktop, but we couldn't resist it. But hey, we may be Swedes, but once in a while we will choose beauty over practicality, all right? The gorgeous black stove and fridge freezer is by Smeg. It's gonna look awesome. I'm so excited about that decision. The splashback was initially set to be the same as the worktop, but it was too thick. It was gonna be 30 millimeters, the same as the worktop. So it would look a little bit funny. It would disturb with the electricals on the walls, and from the sides it would look a little bit funny. So we abandoned that idea and went with another tile like this one. So it's gonna be interesting to see if it works, or we might choose something different. We haven't quite decided. Ultimately, creating a custom-made kitchen is something that we've done a lot of times over the years, but I have to say this has been one of the most frustrating and difficult projects because of delays and misunderstandings with a local joiner. And this is despite the fact that I speak Italian.
Finally, the day arrived when we could begin the renovation. And I was so happy to have convinced my dad to join me for these first weeks. The first thing that needed to happen was fitting of new electrics, water and sewage system, which meant tearing up the floors and walls. I had made a clear plan for how everything should be done. We had a massive job ahead of us. But just as we were about to begin, the electricity was abruptly shut off, and we had no power for a frustrating 6 or 7 days, which was a disaster. This meant that everything needed to be dug out by hand, and all the concrete smashed up with a sledgehammer and carried out manually. Some rocks in the holes were so heavy that we had to lift them together. It was a tough job. We had the mission to keep and protect those original cement tiles in the living room, while needing to connect a water and sewage pipe from the street, so I decided to dig a trench along the wall. We later discovered that the wall between the kitchen and the bathroom only rested on a thin piece of concrete. What a disaster. We made 4 holes to create new foundations and managed to support the wall while making necessary preparations for the underfloor heating and insulation. In total, we manually dug up and carried out 50 tons of materials during our renovation adventure. Some of it went towards filling out the garden's middle section, but there was so much excess that several truckloads had to be hauled away. We were beyond exhausted at this point. After weeks of backbreaking labor, countless tons of debris removed and pipes carefully laid, it was time to round off this part of the build. But before we left, the floors needed to be poured. Thankfully, I managed to get some help for that. Those 3 weeks hold a special place in my heart, not just because of the remarkable start of the renovation we achieved in our home here in Italy, but because of the precious time spent bonding with my dad. As I reflect on it now, I see how much those moments strengthened our connection. He has become a dear friend to me, and I appreciate him so much, not just for his work, but for who he is. It has become clear that this house we are building is not just about renovating. It's about memories made, and the conversation shared, and the love that flourishes with every challenge overcome together.
And this, my friends, is what we want to share with you. That realizing a dream is not only about the distant finishing line, but what is constructed during the journey on the way there. And we would love for you to join us on this journey.